Tanzania have released 4 senior opposition leaders from the Chadema party who were arrested during protests following last month's general election, which resulted in the government claiming a nearly 98% victory for President Samia Suluhu Hassan. These protests led to the highest political crisis in decades, with opposition sources estimating over 1,000 deaths caused by security forces, a figure the government disputes without providing an alternative count. Amongst those released is Chadema Vice Chairman John Heche, arrested on suspicion of terrorism, and Amani Golugwa, the party's Deputy Secretary General. The situation has escalated, with prosecutors charging at least 145 individuals with treason and over 170 with various other offences related to the protests. Thousands in southern Somalia have been forced to flee their homes due to drought, with men. The international communities have repeatedly failed to protect those affected. This has exposed them to hunger, disease, and family separation. Senior researcher at Amnesty International, Dr. David Ngera, explains.
To people affected by drought in southern Somalia, translated into displacement into IDP camps in Somalia. And because there was inadequate services also in the IDP camps, many people ended up moving to Dadaab refugee camp in Kenya.
2 suspects accused of murdering South African rapper Keenan aka Forbes and his friend Tibelo Tips Mutswane are now being charged at Durban King Shaka International Airport in the KwaZulu-Natal province, guarded by heavily armed police special task force members. Malusi and Siyabonga Ndimande arrived by charter plane from Babane, where Eswatini authorities surrendered them to Interpol in terms of an extradition order. The 2 brothers have been led to an office in Leg Irons, where they are being formally charged in connection with the 2023 murder in Durban of rapper Keenan aka Forbes and his friend Tibelo Tips Mutswane. Taiwan is evacuating more than 3,000 people this after a land warning for an arrival of Typhoon Fenghuang, which is expected to dump large volumes of rain on its mountainous east coast, recently lashed by another typhoon. The weakening Fenghuang is forecast to hit land on Wednesday on the island's southwestern coast around the major port after it killed 18 people while powering through the Philippines as a much stronger system. For any news stories you'd like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us at +27 11 714 4459. Channel Africa News, I'm Onele Tsinzi.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
And coming up in your sports news this hour, Cameroon named a World Cup qualifiers that are set to take place this week in Morocco, while South Africa, the Proteas, are under enormous pressure when they face off with India this coming Friday as they hope to defend their World Test Championship title. Details coming up at 12:30.
Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
Well, thank you to Msibudi Makura with our sports headlines. Thank you to Msibudi Makura with our sports headlines and Onele Ntinzi with our news update. It is 12:06 Central African Time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg. We are in the East Rand at the Emperor's Palace, and it is Al-Sisa, the first Al-Sisa conference underway here in the country. And before we get into that, we are on DSTV's audio bouquet channel 802, an open view channel 628, and on www.channelafrica.co.za, as well as on the SABC Plus app, available on the Apple and Google Play stores. Join us in conversation on our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram, and subscribe on YouTube at Channel Africa 1. On Facebook at Channel Africa, you can also send us your comments and voice notes to +2763 as 406-9126 #Africa Updates, and let us know which country you're in. And if you have any stories that you'd like us to highlight or to focus on, send us an email. It is newsroom@channelafrica.co.za, or give us a call on +27 11 714 4459.
on Channel Africa.
Now it is day 2 of the broadcasting from the first Al-Sisa conference, that is the Africa Water and Sanitation Technical Conference, and it is underway here in Johannesburg. And just continue with us on our socials. We will be updating a lot on that front. And we go to our first story, which is Israel, where Israel are basically saying it is eager for peace and needs peace to continue for its people's livelihood development. Now, the president of the state of Israel, that's Isaac Herzog, was speaking from Lusaka, that is Zambia's capital, where he has been on a 2-day state visit. Now, our Zambia correspondent Arthur Davis Sokopo found this.
Mind. But equally to others, an ending war is what stands out first. Well, whatever the context, key is that Israelis are very good in technology, architecture, agriculture, among other forms of development. But certainly, instability in that region is what threatens development. And today, Israeli president says, indeed, they are eager for peace.
We are eager for peace. We want to see peace, just like you are all encouraging us to do. And I want to thank you for your support for Israel in the plight for peace.
He is speaking in Lusaka on his 2-day state visit as he meets his Zambian counterpart, Hakainde Hichilema, the Israeli community living in Zambia, the business world, and Zambians in general. Hichilema has praised the ceasefire in the war in that region, and President Herzog Isaac is happy that progress has been made and hopeful that total peace returns, especially following the recent developments pushed by President Donald Trump of the United States of America.
We had to fight the empire of evil emanating from Tehran from 7 corners of the earth. We are protecting the civilized world and the free world by our plight. I want to thank the United States President Donald Trump for his immense leadership, for bringing about this ceasefire agreement and bringing back most of our hostages, the last one being Lieutenant Hadar Golden, whose body has been held by Hamas since 2014. We're all very moved by it in Israel, and we hope to see all of our hostages, all of them, being brought back as soon as possible.
The visit is seeing affirmation from both countries, Zambia and Israel, on their commitment to enhance their existing bilateral relations. Some of the critical areas the two presidents, Zambia's Hakainde Hichilema and Israel's Isaac Herzog, focus on strengthening collaboration in agriculture, health, education and technology, as well as trade and investments.
We want to move very, very rapidly in putting close to 500,000 hectares of our land under irrigation, and our cooperation means a lot in this area, so we can have food security, not just for ourselves, but for the region as well.
President Herzog praised Zambia for its peace and stability, and always being there to render help to the world. He is also encouraging Israelis around the world to get in to invest in Zambia, as it was a fertile ground for investment. Few months ago, Israel reopened its embassy in Lusaka after about 5 decades of closure, a thing both Presidents Hichilema and his Israeli counterpart Herzog believe is one strengthening factors to the two countries' diplomatic relations.
Zambia is also home to one of the oldest Jewish communities in Africa, and who are present here. Jews were very active in Zambian nation building and in its economic and political life.
That after independence, we embarked on building the first university in this country, the University of Zambia. Many young Zambians are not aware that the University of Zambia was built by Israelis.
President Herzog is expected to depart Zambia upon conclusion of his 2-day official program. Reporting for Channel Africa in Lusaka, Zambia, I'm Arthur Davis, Scopo.
Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
It is 12 after 12 Central African Time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. We are at in the East Rand, that is at the first Africa Water and Sanitation Technical Conference, which is underway here. It is day 2, and there is a hype of activity. And I promise you, the number of people that are out here at this conference, the figures that were touted are literally 1,500 paid attendees of this conference, not only from South Africa and the African continent, but across the globe. Now, it is Channel Africa's second day here, and one of the topics under discussion at the event is cholera and its successful management. And to discuss this further, we are joined at the venue by Dr. Charlene Janse van Rensburg, a speaker at the conference. Dr. Janse van Rensburg, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Good afternoon, Lulu. Thank you for having me.
Now, talk to us about, cholera and how prevalent it is on the African continent, and you being one of the speakers and just taking, the attendees through what has happened with cholera and how it is being managed successfully. So,
Thank you. Yes, there have been millions of confirmed cholera cases globally. Now, cholera is associated with dehydration and diarrhea, so it's very important because it's a common symptom to have a confirmed cholera case. But other than that, there's also been hundreds of thousands of deaths annually, and mostly concentrated in Africa.
now with that, how is Africa doing in terms of managing cholera? Are governments moving fast enough when there is a cholera outbreak? And what needs to be done when such happens?
Okay, so the biggest source of cholera will be our wastewater treatment plants. It's either non-functional or partially functional. And when the untreated or partially treated sewage effluent is discharged into our water resources, that's when there is a risk for cholera. So when there are users that use that water directly, they are at risk of contracting cholera, or when a water treatment plant abstracts that water for treatment and it's not properly treated, then there's also a risk in terms of drinking water.
Now, let's talk about the layman who, doesn't have access to clean drinking water. How do they work around cholera? I remember there was talk about, boiling the water before using the water. At some point, people were told, put a bit of salt and it'll clean out the water, it'll be safe for drinking, and so on. Just take us through that process.
Okay. Even though cholera is a severe disease and it's very infectious, it's disinfected by a disinfection like chlorine or bleach within 30 seconds.
Okay.
What you can always boil your water before drinking it, but what you can also do is if you have a 25-liter container, you can put a spoonful of domestos or jig and let it stand for 30 minutes. It's an option, but it's not always a foolproof method because you don't know the microbiological load in the water, and do you disinfect enough? Yes.
And what have you taken in terms of the conference and the number of speakers that have been at the podium and the different panels? What is your takeaway from this conference?
Thank you. It was lovely for us to share our story because we've been monitoring cholera in our source water for 20 years. And for the first time last year, we had a positive result. So we had to act quickly to deal with that. And we were happy to report that we managed to deal with it successfully. So it was good to be able to share that with other listeners, especially since it didn't involve high-end technology. It was just a bunch of committed promoted people who did what they were supposed to do, and we got it right. So the message was that you don't need a lot of money or resources to do the right thing, but it was also very good to hear what other utilities do and get some pointers on what we can go and do when we get back home.
Now, I'm interested in what it is exactly that you did, because so that when people hear this, they understand the value add that comes with Dr. van Rensburg, and you know, and just have that takeaway in terms of how they can handle things as well going forward.
Okay, thank you. Yes, we had cholera for the first time. So what we did, we had to make sure that we do actually have an accurate, positive result. However, we know that we disinfect. Yes. So it wasn't a problem for drinking water purposes. Okay. As long as we were on high alert and we consistently disinfected adequately, you are safe.
All right.
But we had the social responsibility to let the users of the river know about what was happening. So that's where the Department of Health played a very important role for the people who uses the river for recreation. Yes. And also for religious activities, to warn them not to make use of the river, and then inform the consumers, but to have a message that informs them that the problem is at the river and not the drinking water. Okay. Because the message can be misconstrued,
and what sort of reaction was there, you know, from the consumers themselves?
Yes, well, you don't have control over social media, so there were still people who thought that it was in the drinking water. Okay. But we had evidence to prove that it wasn't, and that's also where the Department of Health came in, because they could tell us when there was actual confirmed cases at hospitals, and we didn't have any confirmed cases, hence we can look back and say that we managed it very successfully.
Oh, great. Well, Dr. Janse van Rensburg, thank you so much for joining us. We are going to leave it here for today, but it's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
That's Dr. Charlene Janse van Rensburg joining us live here at the ALCISA conference, which is the first Africa Water and Sanitation Technical Conference underway here at the Emperor's Palace in the east of Johannesburg. It is 19 after 12 Central African time.
Something exciting and something very inspirational from the president of the country, William Ruto. Whenever athletes are performing to their best level, he always comes on board to reward those athletes, be it football, be it athletics, and not leaving it up to the sport ministry.
The president realizes that sports is a business, and for that reason, he also reduces the number of people who are jobless, because sports now is such a serious business, and for that reason, commercialization of sports is a major way of improving or increasing employment opportunities for the young people, and that is why the president has been very persistent in trying as much as possible to inspire more sports personalities to reduce the baggage of the people who are struggling to get job opportunities in the country among the young people.
Francis FM Motegi, our correspondent from East Africa in Nairobi, Kenya.
Live every Saturday and Sunday from 2 to 5 p.m. Central African Time. Conversations are happening, and Channel Africa is at the heart of them. We tell the African story with clarity, pride, and purpose, reaching audiences that matter to your brand. Partner with us and connect your business with listeners across borders in multiple languages and markets. For partnership opportunities, sponsorship, or sales, email us at partnership@channelafrica.co.za. Channel Africa, the African perspective.
Parlez-vous couramment le français? Êtes-vous passionné par la radio? Et êtes-vous qualifié pour travailler en Afrique du Sud? Envoyez-nous votre CV et vos 3 minutes démo en MP3 à @channelafrica.co.za pour avoir une chance de rejoindre la famille Channel Africa. Si vous n'avez pas de réponse après 14 jours, cela signifie que vous n'avez pas été retenu. Channel Africa, la perspective africaine.
Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo on Channel Africa.
It is 21 after 12 Central African time, and we're coming to you live from the First Africa Water and Sanitation Technical Conference that is underway in Johannesburg at the Emperor's Palace. And Channel Africa has been here. This is day 2 for us, and many topics and issues have been addressed and covered, and just surrounding water issues on the continent and across the globe. And joining us live here from the venue is Pindile Mahlangu, who is the General Manager of Magalies Water. Pindile, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update. Now, Pindile, you were one of the speakers, and I'm sure you had time to listen to what your other speaker delegates were able to deliver to the people in attendance in the different plenaries. Just take us through what you, as the general manager of Magalies Water, had to. The message that you had for the people, and what the expectation was in terms of Magalies Water and how you're dealing with issues, if there are any issues.
Yes, thank you. So I am the Scientific Services Manager at Magalies Water, specifically responsible for water quality management. And I found this quite relevant because the stream that I was facilitating was specifically focused on issues of water quality management. And throughout the stream, I think one of the greatest aspect of it is getting insights as well as views as well as technical expertise from the different water boards, from the different stakeholders within the water sector in a specific way. And I think for my stream specifically, the one that I was facilitating, the biggest aspect of it, or the overarching aspect, was issues of how to manage the quality of water, ensuring water security. This is specifically from the catchment, which is where we are abstracting our water from, through into the water treatment works in a way that we ensure that the final water that is consumed by the consumer is actually compliant to the standards that are regulated by the Department of Water and Sanitation in South Africa. And I think at the epitome of the discussions was emphasis on source water protection. I think that was one of the biggest discussion around the stream that I was co-facilitating, with colleagues coming up with different ways in which we can ensure that we protect our water sources. And specifically, one area that was quite interesting for me was when one of the presenters moved away from somehow protecting the sources completely by not discharging. He was suggesting the aspect of retreating the water, which could be either indirect or direct water reuse, which is instead of discharging the effluent, they retreat the effluent, and we don't contaminate our system, and we allow our water treatment works to treat water that is compliant and it's less of contaminants. The second one was on the cross-border basin management, and I think this is quite important as well, because understanding that South Africa is a water scarce country, we do not have a lot of those catchments in abundance. We don't have a lot of the impoundments or the basins that we are abstracting from, and some of them are co-shared by some of our neighboring countries such as Lesotho. And I think from that aspect, we need to then come up with strategies to assist each other in managing those resources quite efficiently, such that we protect this very prestigious source of life. And the one other area that came through quite robustly was the issue of source water infrastructure investment. I think a lot of investments have been done around, or have been made around, issues of the infrastructure that is used to treat the water. That is the drinking water treatment facilities. And I think we need to also move away from that to building capacity building as a country, where we are basically improving and refurbishing our source water infrastructure, such that we increase the capacity of water that we have while we're protecting the current catchments. And I think the other area that we really did discuss at length, it's the stringent measures that could be put in place for wastewater discharge to ensure that our wastewater facilities discharge water that is compliant to the specified regulation, specifically in South Africa, especially in general limits for wastewater discharge. We also went further to look into the issue of community involvement, and I think there was one particular lady who was not part of the presenters, but yes, she was part of the audience who came up with this idea to say, for the longest of times we have focused on PPP, which is public, partnerships, and yes, the triple P. However, now we can literally add the fourth P.
Okay.
We don't look at triple P anymore. We move towards quadruple P, which the last P would then incorporate the issue of people. And I think that's
okay, incorporating people is very key, but also in the same breath, accessing the individuals or the municipality, for instance, if there's a water leak. It takes time for the municipality to send out a team, and what you find now, let's look at Johannesburg, for instance. In some parts of Johannesburg, they will send out a team, they will dig up whatever issue, apart whatever issue that's happening there, and then you'll be told there's another department then has to come and close the pipes or whatever it is where they were dealing with the leakage. That becomes time and extended time and extended time. How do we deal with that as the people?
And I think that's where the fourth P comes into play quite robustly, because if you make people part of the process, if you make them, I have seen that we're doing quite well, I think generally South Africa, in terms of our communication strategies. So I think one of the areas that we can really focus on is consistent communication with our consumers. As soon as there's a pipe break, let them know. Give them an estimate time in which we're going to be repairing the pipes, and also give them the turnaround time as to when can we expect to have the water back. Then engage them and make them a part of the process. As there is, the reports are going through, take videos of the process, show them that this is where we are at this time, and we just removed this particular pipe, and we are now we're putting it back, and this department is gonna, and it's gonna take us another 2 hours for the other department to come through and actually be able to do this, and give them the lead time. We are left with 2 hours, and also encourage and thank them for their participation, and encourage them to also spread the information to those who are not aware, because the idea with the public is that they understand the complexities within the water sector. I don't think they have an issue with that. I think they just want to be kept in the loop. They want to be a part of the process.
Communication.
Going
back to the water treatment process, as a solution. Just briefly educate us there, how that would work, because when you're thinking water treatment of water that comes from a certain point, it just becomes tricky.
Yes, it does. And I must admit as well, up until I joined the water sector, for me it was a far-fetched thought, and I couldn't quite comprehend it. But it's just simple, and in the South African context, we do not have separate source water protection strategies that are stringent. So if you had to explore other countries, for one, if one had to look at Shanghai, I'm going to give Shanghai as an example. Shanghai has got stringent source water protection, whereby your source water that we're abstracting from, there is no discharge of wastewater into it. South Africa has got indirect potable reuse, which is now looking into, you are going to discharge effluent waste into the very same stream that you will be abstracting from. And we're relying heavily on issues of rehabilitation of the system, because naturally the system will rehabilitate. And we're also relying heavily on issues of looking at the volume that will be discharging into the mainstream. There will be some form of dilution. However, we have of late faced issues of drought, which then increases issues of contamination concentration. We have pre-concentration of contaminants. Then you now start dealing with issues of those contaminants being at higher concentrations than our conventional water treatment. So what normally happens is we abstract water from our rivers, our streams nearby. We build our water treatment works very close to our abstraction point. And then what we do is we then take the water through the conventional treatment works, which will then look into the, I'm not going to go through the entire details. But ultimately you will have the water treated, and it must comply to the SANS 241 standard, which is, it regulates the drinking water for consumers, and then we put it into our reservoirs, and then it's distributed into the reticulation system for our consumers.
Well, Pindile, we could go on and learn more from you, but unfortunately we have run out of time. Thank you so much for joining us here at our CSAD That is Pindile Mahlangu, the General Manager of Magali's Water, joining us here at the venue. We go back to studio where Onel Ntinzi is standing by with our headlines.
ABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Lulu. Angola marks the 50th anniversary of its independence from Portugal today, commemorating half a century since the country declared freedom on the 11th of November 1975, after a 13-year war for liberation. Morocco is facing severe water scarcity due to prolonged droughts, climate change, and an increase in demand. The country's government has had to implement emergency plans, and the foreign ministers of Turkey and Egypt will tomorrow discuss the Gaza ceasefire and international efforts to rebuild the enclave once the war is over during the talks in Ankara. Channel Africa News, I am Onel Ntinzi.
ABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective. Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Very good afternoon from the sports desk. I am Musibu Dimakura with your latest sports news at the South. So Cameroon are taking a 28-man squad to Morocco for this week's FIFA World Cup 2026 qualifiers African playoffs as they bid now to keep alive their chances of going to next year's finals in Canada, Mexico, as well as the USA. So Cameroon finished as one of the 4 best runner-ups across the 9 African qualifying groups for the 2026 World Cup and have a chance now to get to the finals via 2 separate playoffs. They compete first in the African playoffs in Morocco this week, starting against the Democratic Republic of Congo on Thursday, and then if they win that match, they will then meet the victor of the other semi-final between Gabon as well as Nigeria on Sunday. Now, the African winner advances then to the intercontinental playoffs to be held in March of next year, where the last 2 playoffs of the 48 World Cup team will then be decided. Cameroon compete in Group G with Gabon, Mozambique, as well as the defending champions Côte d'Ivoire. Staying with football news, Argentina will be without Atletico Madrid trio of Julian Alvarez, Raúl Molina, as well as Gianluigi Simeone for Friday's friendly match in Angola after they failed to complete procedures linked to the yellow fever vaccine, with the Argentina Football Association having confirmed the news on Monday. So yellow fever is a mosquito-borne viral disease that is found in some parts of Africa as well as South America, and travelers to those regions are required to be vaccinated to prevent any infection. Now, the world champions Argentina, who have already secured their spot to next year's World Cup in the USA, Mexico, as well as Canada, will face off with Angola in the capital city, Luanda. In rugby news now, after receiving a red card against France in Paris this past weekend, Springbok lock Lulu Gaboo will find out his fate when he faces a mandatory disciplinary hearing today. So Diaga's permanent red card left many rugby pundits dumbfounded and also caused even former Springbok captain John Smith to question the wisdom of the decision. But Diaga is now set to receive a ban for the red card unless he can convince the disciplinary committee otherwise. That news, as well as several bruised and battered bodies, have now convinced the Bok team to shift their own team announcement from Monday to Thursday to give them more clarity in the selection process. Meanwhile, Springbok assistant coach Tony Brown stressed that the Boks would not underestimate Italy this weekend as the teams prepare to line up at the Allianz Stadium in Turin on Saturday. Brown also adds that the Azzurri 26-19 victory over Australia last weekend rubber-stamped the important, as well as the improvement rather, that they have been making as a team. Brown says they expect a colossal encounter against the Italians in front of their own home crowd.
The whole team today has moved on to Italy, and if you've watched Italy play Australia, you know that it's going to be a tough team, a tough challenge for us. They're passionate at home, the same as the French, so we've got to make sure we prepare as well as we can and make sure we tick every box like we did against France.
And finally, in cricket news, South Africa's Proteas will face a stern challenge in Kolkata this coming Friday as they take on India in the next leg of their World Test Championship title defence. With just about 3 days to prepare, the squad arrives fresh from a gritty win in Rawalpindi, but Eden Gardens is no easy stage. Despite minimal training time, the Proteas are banking on belief, resilience, as well as a proven ability to thrive under pressure. India, dominant at home as well as hungry for points, will test every layer of the South Africa's depth. The recent 8-wicket win over Pakistan in Rawalpindi to level the series 1-1 has also injected fresh confidence into the squad. But unfortunately, South Africa went on to lose that series 2-1. It's 12:37 p.m. Central African Time. That concludes your sports news this hour. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, our email address is newsroom@channelafrica.co.za. Give us a call as well on +27 11714 4459. I'm back with more sports news in the next hour. For Channel Africa Sport, I am Musibudi Makura.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
dziko lapansi likuyang'ana mzinda wa johannesburg. atsogoleri ochokera m'mayiko akuluakulu azachuma pa dziko lapansi akumana kukambirana njira zomwe zingasinthe mayiko, misika komanso zatsogolo la mayiko. mukudziwa kale kuti Channel Africa idzakhala komweko kukubweretserani zokambirana zamkatinkati komanso akatswiri kusanthula zomwe zili zofunikira. msonkhano wa G20 kuyambira pa 22 pakana pa 23 mwezi wa Novembala monga momwe ukuchitikira. Khalani cheru ku Channel Africa, kalilole wa Africa.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Lulu. Good afternoon. The latest data released by Statistics South Africa shows that the country's official unemployment rate eased by 1.3% from 33.2% recorded in the second quarter to 31.9% in the third quarter of 2025. The quarterly labor force survey shows that there was a 248,000 increase in the number of employed persons to 17.1 million, while the number of unemployed persons decreased by 360,000 to 8 million. South Africa's Cape Town International Airport has reached a major milestone in welcoming its 1 millionth passenger last month, ahead of the peak season. AXA says the achievement, usually seen only during the busy December period, signals an early and strong start to the peak travel season. AXA Group spokesperson Ofenze Dijwe says the focus remains on delivering efficient, safe and welcoming airport services.
The terminal is alive with travelers and there's a real sense of excitement as we see more people taking to the skies earlier than usual this year. We're grateful to our airport partners, airlines and ground teams for their dedication and to our passengers for their patience and support as we manage record numbers within our current facilities. We look forward to welcoming every traveler passing through Cape Town International Airport this season and thank you for being part of this remarkable milestone.
Mercedes-Benz South Africa says CEO designate Abi Khotle has resigned for personal reasons. The resignation comes less than a month before he was set to take on the role. Khotle, who joined Mercedes-Benz South Africa in 2017, was named in June to succeed Andreas Brand as chief executive of the German luxury car maker Mercedes-Benz South African operations. Khotle currently serves as the company's executive director for human resources and corporate affairs and will step down effective on the 30th of November. The company did not provide details about his personal reasons in its statement. In West Africa, Nigeria's Dangote Fertilizer plans to use technology from a subsidiary of German ThyssenKrupp to build 4 new urea granulation units. Each unit will be capable of producing 4,235 metric tons of urea a day, raising Dangote's annual output to more than 8 million tons from 2.65 million tons, putting it among the world's largest producers of the organic compound. Nhlanhla Mahlangu reports.
The new units will be built adjacent to Dangote's fertilizer complex in Lekki, Lagos, which has operated with ThyssenKrupp's UFT technology since 2021. The expansion will use the German's firm advanced low-emission UFT fluid bed granulation technology, which is used in more than 70% of global urea production. The agreement includes a process design package and proprietary equipment, including granulators and scrubbers. It will also incorporate ammonia conversion technology to put ammonium sulfate byproducts into the granules, eliminating waste and improving logistics.
Tesla board chair Robin Delholm thanked the electric vehicles car makers and shareholders for approving CEO Elon Musk's $878 billion pay package. The approval marks one of the largest compensation votes in corporate history and underscores investor willingness to bet on Musk's leadership as Tesla pursues its next phase of growth. Last week, with 1.94 billion votes, the proposal cleared with over 75% support, reinforcing Musk's strategy to transition Tesla into an AI and robotics company. Shareholders backed the long-term plan despite opposition from proxy firms. Now let's have a look at financial indicators at this hour. $1 in Nigeria is trading at 1,000 Naira 435, Botswana 13 Pula 32, Kenya the dollar is 128 shilling 2, Zambia 22 kwacha 64. BRICS countries, $1 in Brazil is at 5 real 33, in Russia is 80 rubles 88, India 88 rupees 62, China 7 yuan 29, South Africa 17 rand 58 cents. $1 is 75 pence to the British pound and 86 to the euro. Commodities, gold is trading at $4,143, platinum at $1,591 per ounce, the price of Brent crude oil at $63.98 a barrel. That's all for now. For any business stories you'd like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za, or you can call us on +27 11714 4459. For Channel Africa Business, I am Chanduko Ligege.
Business News on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Ready to connect, innovate, and be inspired? It's all happening at Africa Tech Festival, where Africa's technology meets the world. From the 10th to the 13th of November in Cape Town, join global leaders, investors, and innovators driving the future of Africa's digital economy. Don't miss the continent's biggest week in tech. Get your pass now at africatechfestival.com.
Africa Update, your daily dose of African insights with Lulu Gaboo on Channel Africa.
Thank you to Chanduko Ligege with our business news. It is 12:44 Central African time, and we're coming to you live from the Al-Sisa conference underway in Johannesburg in the eastern part of South Africa. It is the first conference at Africa Water Sanitation Tech Conference, and there is a hive of activity, a number of guests here, panelists, speakers, there are different plenaries. There's a lot that is going on, and as you've been listening and hearing, we are speaking to a number of different people from all parts of South Africa and the globe. And joining me now is Dr. Ntsapo Depa, an Executive Scientific Services from Umgeni Utugela Water. And, with a lot happening, not only in South Africa, we look at different issues. Just to touch on something where an increase of informal settlements in Kenya having resulted in overcrowding, poor infrastructure, and inadequate social amenities. A study at the Matare informal settlement in Nairobi revealing that the situation in urban slums is below the minimum standard recommended by the World Health Organization. And Dr. Depa joins us here. And just to, apart from looking at the study that was done in Kenya and looking at informal settlements, South Africa has a number of informal settlements. And as, Umgeni Utugela Water, how do you deal with this crisis, for a lack of a better word, in terms of water management in your particular area?
Great, thank you so much, Lulu. As you indicated, that I'm the executive for Scientific Services. Scientific Services is responsible for water quality management, and that is actually looking at potable water, that is drinking water, as well as wastewater as well. That is looking at the quality of the potable water that's coming out of the water treatment works, as well as the wastewater, ensuring that it's of the desired standards as per the effluent requirements.
And now this conference, the first of its kind on the African continent, and most definitely with the attendance that we're seeing here, and plus minus 1,500 delegates from across not only the African continent but the globe. What have you taken away from this conference with all the different speakers and obviously executives like yourselves, like-minded people, and also people from all walks of life also having ideas of what should be done to make things better when it comes to water and access to water, and having clean water and so on?
It's interesting because the session that I was chairing and facilitating was actually on WASH. WASH relates to water and sanitation as well as hygiene. And the thing is, these three are so interlinked, because if you've got poor water quality, you've got poor sanitation, eventually you will have all these diseases. So there is that knock-on effect that actually leads from a poor water quality as well as a poor sanitation. You get that poor health. And you remove one of those, you end up with all these diseases. And surrounding all this is actually the microbial challenges that one experiences from, especially sanitation services, because with all these sewer discharges that you're getting into the rivers, you get all these diseases. Like just recently, we heard of a typhoid case here in South Africa. There have been cholera outbreaks as well. Those are all related to the sanitation services, sewer infrastructure, sewer just seeping into our water resources. So it is a challenge, and you're making reference to informal settlements as well. This is exactly where poor sanitation exists, and most of these outbreaks are actually arising from such issues.
And how do we get it right? Because clearly this is a starting point. There have been water conferences before, but this is different because it not only targets South Africa specifically, but it looks at what is happening on the African continent, our neighbors, for instance. As South Africa relies on, we're not a water-rich country, but our neighbors are some of our neighbors, and we were able to get water from them, supply of water from them. How do we get it right as a country like South Africa, and also afford other countries to get great ideas from us? Because I've been told by other speakers that not only are we good at certain areas when it comes to water and sanitation, but we're also learning in the same breath. How do we get it right?
Absolutely. I think this is where dialogues of this nature are really crucial, because, like you're indicating that it's not only South Africa, it's really global. So we're actually learning from other countries as well, and whatever these other countries are implementing, we also take on as well. But just looking specifically at what we can gain from other countries, and having indicated that most of these issues are pollution related, so we just have to be going out there, identifying those pollution spots. And once we've identified them, we just, because as water boards anyway, we cannot really enforce those pollution controls, but working together with the Department of Water and Sanitation, who are actually the custodians of pollution control, we collaborate together with them and ensuring that whoever is responsible for those pollution challenges, are actually brought to task.
Held accountable. We're going to come back to that because I'd like to unpack that, because accountability is a big issue when it comes to a country like South Africa, and just understanding how what the plan of action is, and we'll come back to that, and I'm glad that you're staying with us. We are going to go back to studio. The Upside is coming up at the top of the hour as I just take a break from speaking to Dr. Nsapo Depa, who is an executive scientific services executive at Umgeni Utugela Water. We'll go back to Auckland Park. The Upside team, who is there? Hello, how are you guys? All right, we seem to be, is there anybody there from the Upside? This is the Africa Update coming to you live from Alcisa, from the Emperor's Palace in the East Rand. It is 12:52 Central African Time, and we continue our conversation with Dr. Depa, who is an Executive Scientific Services, Umgeni Utugela. And as you were saying, accountability. Accountability, where you find or you see or you get to hear on the news that their suppliers, for instance, just bulk water, for instance, and there's nobody has any experience in that space. No scientists on that team, but they're able to get, whether it's a tender, and we have a crisis, and it becomes a challenge because people don't have access to water. And as we all know and have discovered and realized, communication is very key when it comes to issues like that. What are you finding on the ground as a team, apart from just focusing on your area, but as a team, there's something that you're doing right in terms of accountability?
I will actually confine it to water quality as well.
Yes, yeah.
Because as you're saying that we are servicing the municipalities, I will not really touch
Go
on the
into
tender
that.
issues,
Yes.
of course. But remember, we are supplying the municipalities anyway. We have to ensure that whatever we give to the municipalities as accredited and confirmed by our labs is of the best quality. But what would happen every now and again, we would, as the water board, issue good quality water, but there would be instances where contamination takes place, in the pipeline, in the distribution system. And the good part of it is that even when the municipality receives it, they do tests as well.
Okay.
And in most cases, they would correlate whatever they are getting in terms of the test results with whatever we would have given them. So there is that level of correlation. And if it ever happens that we pick up something from our end as well, we have an incident management protocol that we communicate to the municipalities. But I would say 99% of the time, we will not dish out that water having not quality tested and ensuring that the standard that we're distributing out there is of the best quality. And in instances where there is that from the end user side of things, they will still come back, refer samples to us to ensure that indeed what they had picked up, it would have been picked up. But like I indicated, that contamination could take place in the distribution system. We can give out that 99% or 100% quality. If such non-conformances are picked up, then that verification process kicks in.
Your takeaway from this conference, the first of its kind and a very interesting one.
Oh, a very interesting one indeed. It's interesting even more for me because I've been part of the, I would say, organizing team in a way, because I've also been part of the scientific team. And being in the background, and seeing it coming to life like this, to me, it's really beyond expectation, And big ups to the organizers who actually made it, and it being the first of its kind. Really, the team has done an awesome job. Really. And if I may single out one person that I've been working very closely with, Dr. Asif Ali, who's been actually, the program director for this initiative. He really has done very well leading up to the start of the conference.
Well, Dr. Ntsapho Depa, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure. And as you say, you're quite happy with this. And you know what? We were having a great time here as Africa Update, being Channel Africa. And it's really great to be here and just learning different aspects of what we speak about on the ground and not really understand. And now having the scientists who understand exactly what they're talking about, and we get to learn all about that. Thank you for your time today on Africa Update.
Thank you so much.
That is Dr. Ntsapho Depa, Executive Scientific Sources, Umgeni Utugela Water, joining us here live at the Emperor's Palace in Johannesburg. And you know, with Tracy waving her arms all over the place is very interesting. And we go back to studio where the Upside team is here. How are you today? How's the studio? What's happening in Auckland Park and what's coming up on the Upside?
Fantastic, Lulu. How are you doing? Listen, are you
come into this venue, right? The first entrance, you literally turned.
Oh, I think I lost Lulu there for a second. But here's what's coming up on the Upside this afternoon. I tell you what, interesting conversations, because we're going to be talking about choosing why Africans are choosing between micro locks for healthier, low maintenance hair. I don't know what micro locks are, but I'm going to learn a thing or two this afternoon on the Upside. And then from the front lines of rhino protection to the global art scene, we'll be joined by Jamie Joseph as she fights to save wildlife. And then later on, Alex Forbes celebrates 90 years by giving back to the next generation with a financial literacy book for kids. Fantastic initiative. And then we discuss how The Call brings queer African lives, music and magic to life. The queer shall we say the queer movement, not a movement, I must make sure I say things properly, in Africa, and how that is progressing over time, and the respect, the recognition, is it being seen on the ground as we would like it to be? That's all coming up on the Upside this afternoon.
Ukatili wa kijinsia unaharibu maisha na kutenga jamii. Utokea nyumbani, shuleni, kazini na mara nyingi kwa ukimya. Lakini